Welcome to the Fellowship Style Stage. Today I'll be your host, Josh Goldsworthy. I'm joined here by Rich Windle, who is the Weller and Sebastian Creative Education Lead. Welcome, Rich.
Thank you.
Please, would you like to take us through what your role is with those brands?
Good question. So my role really is to help facilitate and come up with different ways to train or educate hairdressers within our company, but also our customers as well, outside of our company, in new ways of approaching hairstyling, using all of our different brands from Sebastian through to IME, and also look at how we can develop courses and programs and things like that that will be salon efficient and also perhaps just give a new edge to something that's already there.
Absolutely amazing. And before we start working on your model today, let's have a look at the colouring techniques you've used. Already it looks fantastic, so let's take a look at that now. That is a fantastic colour. If you'd just like to talk us through a little bit more in your own words.
Okay, so I obviously work really close to our colour team artists in the studios in Manchester and all over the country. But the colour concept really is about colouring the cut. So we wanted to create this little collection that salons could learn from and adopt techniques that they could do really quickly, really simply, but also create something that's quite dynamic for their client. So we're using colour blocking as a technique, and we're taking it from the extreme into something that's perhaps a little bit softer, like we can see here on Grace's hair, where there's just one element of the colour blocking that really sits out within there. So you could see from the video that there was pre-sectioned pattern to that was coloured in different tones, so we didn't want to pre-lighten. So what we actually did here today, or here on Grace's hair, is we used what she already had as an existing placement, if you like, okay. And then used a colour touch as our main colour range to colour her hair. So she was up there at about a level of 8 to 9, and we in different levels. So you can see from the lighter areas that they were up at a good 9 or 10, and we've just used colour touch with this radial application working with the haircut. And then use different tones in different areas in those pre-sectioned portions of the head that will complement this particular cut.
Fantastic. I've got some follow-up questions for that, but I'm going to let you start. I'd just like to talk us through what you're going to be doing.
So this is the textured bob, and it's a modern take on a classic power suit bob. Collar length, so it shows the line, but it has that kind of very square shape, running from the nape right the way through to the sides. However, we approach it slightly differently, perhaps from a classic technique, and we work in radials. because the head's really round, we want to work in that natural fall element. So we start at the bottom, working from right up to from the hairline and take a diagonal section all the way around down to the occipital. And then we cut that section first. Cut out a line, nice and straight. And then we take an inner section, which you can see here underneath the top section, and then we blend that and connect. So it's quite fast technique for cutting something that's classic. And then the last section, we actually elevate up and we layer first of all. So that what happens is it creates this soft layer that just touches the outline, and then any remaining hair that falls from the top, we connect into the line. So you're not always combing lots of hair into the same position and falls out into the natural fall. As far as the personalizing of the haircut, this is all done dry. So what I've done here is kind of prep that. So I actually, everything has already been pre-cut underneath here. So the line and all the personalizing. And what we did with the top piece is we've only cut the line in and then pre-sectioned it out so that we can then just bring that hair into its natural fall, combing it forward. As we know, hair likes to kind of move around, so we just find that natural fall in the blow drying.
That's great. And would you say this is, personally, it sounds like it's a really salon-friendly technique, very quick. Being a business, we need time, and time is money. Do you agree with that?
Exactly. I mean, if you've got your fundamentals, then you can adapt those. And that's what this is about, really, is taking the fundamental principles of cutting a one line, but doing it in a way that will be efficient and quick. Yeah. So that last layer is, as we've worked through the whole haircut, it's the same technique, is we're using this deep point cutting technique with our scissors, just to create an internal layer that shows separation, shows a bit of detail, gives us something that when we want to show transformation in the look, it will give us that little bit of support. But what we won't see are layers on the surface, if you like. So it's all kind of inside out cutting.
Fantastic.
Deep point cutting, basically. So it's a very visual part of what you do. So everything prior to this is all very fundamental, technical, cutting the line, head position, all the things we learn as we work in hairdressing that are really key. Just turn you. That's it. A little bit more. There you go. Perfect. So yeah, that's fundamental in what we learn. But then, to sort of excite the stylist a little bit more, the hair cutter, we introduce this element of personalization. So we can see how strong that weight is. We don't want to overcut it, but at the same time, we want to just balance out the weight in the hair. And obviously, I say obviously, it's not always obvious, but most of the time, the hair itself is usually more dense at the back. So we have to compensate for that and perhaps take a little bit more weight out of the areas of behind the ear towards the face. And naturally, you can see on Grace's hair here, she has that kind of natural fineness in the front. So we don't want to overcut it. So it comes back to shape and balance. It comes back to knowing your client, knowing their hair type and how you work on it. And it might be that opportunity for that client who perhaps always has a bob to have something that's a little bit freer, a little bit newer for her without that massive commitment change.
You mentioned about the length of this. Is this something that could work on varying lengths as well?
Oh yeah, great. That's my favourite part really, is that, it's always going to be for a collar length bob. Well, actually you could do it on a graduated bob. The principle's the same. You're still cutting to a distance and then you can soften it all out. Or you can go shoulder length or even longer, depending on, I think that really just depends more so on the hair density. And, when we're working on hair in the salon, we have to take into account that not everybody's got the perfect amount of hair.
Totally.
And sometimes we need to be realistic about how long or how short we can go and work it best to what they've got.
Of course. And your personalisation obviously will differ on hair textures and thicknesses.
Yeah.
What about your sectioning pattern though? You're talking about those radial sections.
Yeah. So again, it comes to sort of like the hairline shape, So if the hairlines goes back a bit far, then we have to maybe compensate and go a bit higher. So there's more hair in perhaps that middle band. So you're just, the first thing we always look at is the hairline.
Yeah, of course.
And assess what the hairline density is, so that we, enables us to kind of put our sections where we want them really. But the radial section idea is more about working with where the hair is going to sit in the finish. So we're trying to cut the hair to the finish, but do it from the start. Think about where that hair is going to be. So having a radial section, we know that it's all going to flow from its natural fall position. You can take that hair and subdivide it and, you know, do more sections if you feel there's too much hair for you to cut, you know, and you need to sort of break it down. And in fact, what I did with the video model is on the underneath section, I took 2 or 3 sections because she had so much hair in the nape there that to do it in one section wouldn't have looked nice.
Yeah, of course.
It's a bit like...
something I would like to point out, and I think this is great for people that are viewing at home, the way you're texturizing here, that deep point cutting, is very purposeful, and this isn't a discredit to you, but you see so many people doing this very quickly, and it's really nice to see somebody who's actually taking their time and looking at their placement.
Yeah.
I think that's something that maybe you could explain to them.
Yeah, it's point cutting, whatever point cutting you're doing, should be purposeful. It should be there for a reason and not just to shatter the shape as such, yeah? So this type of point cutting it's more about, we're going in with this actual blade open and almost using the heel and then not snipping the scissor, so that we're cutting away hair, but we're slightly softer, it's a bit more feathered. And then also looking to see where you're actually creating those little open spaces. Can I just bring you round a little bit? That's beautiful, that's perfect. Where those open spaces are, or need to be. That's why when we're doing the haircut, we do all the base first. We obviously cut it wet, get everything, the line and everything else, and we do the personalizing at the end, so that we can see exactly where it is we want to do. And you know, just using the fine side of the comb, just keeping that hair in place, look to see where I want to create my spaces and how deep I want to go, and then I work it in.
Can you just explain what you've done previously to this when it comes to maybe styling and products that you've used?
Okay. So obviously, dependent on the hair type and the hair texture, will determine perhaps what products you might use in the styling or blow drying. So I've actually used Sebastian No Breaker as my base product to cut with, along with Potion 9 and Dark Oil. So I've used those for 2 reasons. One is that they work great all together as a cutting lotion, maintaining structure to your cutting process, keeps all the hairs together and in control, and you're not forever spraying the hair down with water. But also, the No Breaker is actually working as an anti-breakage treatment whilst you're cutting, because we know we're going to go in and blow dry that hair and stretch that hair out. You know, Grace has actually got curly hair, so to get it nice and polished, you need to get physical with it, so those products of the Sebastian range are great as a cutting tool, but also they're in there for the blow drying. And the blow drying really is about wrap drying. Yeah. Simple, nice simple wrap drying, working on the roots, just starting in the nape, all the way, almost following the sectioning pattern that you used for the haircut. And getting that polished smoothness on the roots so that you can then perhaps put a bit more body if you want with a bigger brush on the layers of the hair and turn it a little bit. So, but what we wanted was something that was fairly head hugging, but not flat. Yeah, but polished. So I'm just going to work around the front here.
Yeah, I'm familiar with those products. I think most people would say they're the hero products when it comes to Sebastian, especially for cutters like yourself.
Yeah.
But I can really see that high shine. Obviously, it comes from the beautiful colour work as well. But
yeah, all of it. It's right. All of it complements. You know, like that's one of the reasons why we use Colour Touch today, because that sits a little bit more outside, and she already had colour from a previous colour in there, be it slightly faded. But also, it's the products make it shine a bit more, you know, especially when you're working with hot tools. So we actually used Trilliant spray a little bit when we were ironing those ends, just to really make it pop. So I'm still working through. I'm still just having a look and seeing where the separation is, shaking out the hair. You know, very much this part of the haircut itself is a little bit of a work in progress as you're doing the haircut, because you can't see it until you cut it. You can't see what's happening in that hair until you get in there and start opening the spaces up. So some areas will need a little bit more. I don't want to go too close, because the closer I go to the root area, the more disruption will be created, and maybe you'll lose that control a bit.
Yeah, of course. And is this a look that, obviously we're seeing it smooth here today, and you said that your beautiful model has curly hair. Is this something that will lend itself to all different styling?
Yeah, it's great. You take a diffuser on it and you've got those little spaces, and you just keep everything close to the head. I was tempted to do that today when I was prepping the idea of what the content would be today, and say, oh, I'll do a curly hair. But then I thought it won't really show the haircut technique enough. But yeah, you could just use something that's going to nourish the curls, that's going to keep those curls defined, and then take a diffuser and just let the diffuser do the work. And away you go. You've got this lovely kind of soft, not curly bob, but wavy bob, natural wave, that you can play with and show up a little bit more.
And you spoke about colour blocking at the start of the session. Do you see that as a key trend coming into this year?
Big time. Absolutely. I mean, it's not something we haven't seen before in the decades, but I think there's a very big trend towards variants of colour blocking. So you'll see on our second model today that you'll see the colour blocking, whereas here the colour blocking is more about not so much being the emphasis, it's more about being the focus of the haircut. Yeah, it's a little peekaboo piece at the front, and that's it.
Yeah, of all trends, it's all about that versatility.
Yeah, and it's got to be salon friendly, very much salon friendly, useful, and then you can take that idea and then you can push the boundary of it if you want to show more creative aspect to it.
Yeah.
And say, well, I have got a client who wants to, show it off a bit more and do a really strong Alice band all the way through that sits out, or a double focus where you've got that classic kind of underneath one colour, on top one colour, and they could be opposites, and not complement them, but look really good, look really good the way that they sit on the haircut. So I'm getting close. Well, how are we doing? Oh yeah. So now we can just see the solidity of the line through here. So all I'm going to do is just start to pick that top section up a little bit more, and just take it almost in the area that I pre-sectioned off. Okay.
Now you spoke about wrap drying. Have you used any hot tools today?
I have, yeah. So I've used flat irons to polish the ends of the hair, mid-lengths and ends. And, I don't want to depend on them, but I do want to be able to get that kind of unity through all of the hair's natural movement and texture. So obviously a hairdryer with a nozzle is key, for me anyway. Some people don't, but definitely a hairdryer with a nozzle for me when I'm wrap drying the hair. And then I'm going to style the hair slightly differently at the end. Just finishing off this little bit of deep point cutting in space, so I can see I've still got a line from here, but I can see this softness happening in there.
Yeah, it's fantastic. The angle I'm at, I don't know if you want to turn slightly to that.
Shall we?
Camera.
So this way, shall we?
You can see the perimeter shape still fully in there.
Yeah, when we've got that shape underneath, this has all been pre-cut, pre-point cut, and then that nice soft layer on the top. Grace's hair, she doesn't have as long as length in the front because of her previous haircut, but like anything in the salon, you've got to adapt.
Yeah, of course.
Okay, so let's show the haircut off first. I am actually going to dry because Grace is a little bit hot underneath the lights, so I'm just going to need to just dry her a little bit. Is that okay?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah? Good. Do me a favour, mate. Could you go and get me my orange brush? Cooled you down there, didn't it, girl? Can I step... Oh, is he back? He's not back now. Can I step forward? Sorry. Can I step forward and get the brush?
Yeah, we can do this. If you'll just come back and then we'll redo it. It's fine, it's fine.
I'm not going to use it right now.
You're not going to use it right now. Just pass it in.
Sorry.
And then we'll just start from a section where you're doing the hair, please. Yeah.
Now?
Yeah, just pick it up.
Cool.
So Rich, when it comes to wrap drying, is this your go-to brush?
Yeah. Mostly.
Yeah.
You know what? I find that for me it's about when you're using the brush. So I generally start with a cutting comb.
Yeah, okay.
And I start wrap drying with a cutting comb. Then I move to like a vast brush like that, or a Denman, and then I'll finish off with a round brush on the mid-lengths and ends. That's if it's got length in it. If it's a short haircut, then I might just use a brush.
Perfect.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, so I'm just going to blow this around.
Looks amazing.
Thank you. I mean, it's just a really simple idea where it might kind of inspire a hairdresser in the salon just to approach their regular clients with something that doesn't have to scare them.
Yeah, definitely. Starting to really see that pop of colour as well. That
Yeah,
panel
you're starting to
coming
really
through
see
the front.
that, which is good. So let's just get that classic thing going on. And then what I'm going to do is just take a curved iron to some of the hair. But I'm going to do that because I'm not going to do any more cutting.
When using hot tools, are you an advocate for heat protection?
Yeah, oh yeah. Yeah, very much so. You'll notice in the information that it's like everything is all about that kind of heat protection. Let's move it over to the side slightly. That's a bit more complementary. There we go. That's a bit more yeah, anything that's going to give you any product will generally give you some protection, but something that's thermal protective is a good thing. So before I reshape it slightly, you can start to see the classicness of it. I'm just going to take this off. Is that okay? Just down. Just pull away. Have a seat. And then we can just turn you slightly, so we can see that shape happening. Oh, hello. And just work the fringe. If you've got a fringe, work with the fringe. If you've got a grown out fringe, work with the grown out fringe, and definitely. So on and so forth. And then if we push the hair, that's quite nice actually. I might show that off with the. You can see the colour a little bit more.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah. And then just to give it something in the styling, sometimes people say, oh, can you do me curls or waves or something like that? I'm actually going to just put a little bit of movement in there. So I'm actually using Sebastian Dark Oil, Fragrant Mist, which is a finishing product, but it's great as a little tool to capture any kind of heat movement that you put in the hair. Close your eyes, lovely. Has that lovely scent.
Really does.
Yeah. The argan oil and the cedarwood and the sandalwood, it just makes that feeling really nice. And all I'm going to do really is just look at the shape. I don't want to spend, what I find when I go into salons is people say, oh, well, they want some curls, but it takes half an hour or 3/4 of an hour. We haven't got time to do that. So something that's just gives a little bit of detail to your look. So I'm just picking up hair quite randomly in nice big sections. And I'm using a curve, a curver, GHD curver. And then I'm just going to go in and just pull against the the root area, just to get a little bit of a bend without over curling the hair. So it just starts to give me a little bit of a bend.
Oh, that's a really interesting technique.
And then you can do it with a curling iron, you can do it with a flat iron. I'm just using this particular one because I quite like the way the way the barrel curves, the shape of the curve.
Just that slight irregularity.
Yeah, exactly. So, you know, you're kind of waving to shape is more to the point. And it doesn't really matter how big or how small the sections are. It's good to have randomness to there. Maybe going one way, can you go down the barrel a bit more where the hair's a bit longer to capture some more hair. And just let that heat pop in a little bit of a bend. And don't even worry about the ends of the hair, if you like. Unless you perhaps if you're using a round iron, then, you know, maybe curl it a bit more. Again, it depends on what it is you're trying to achieve. I actually just want a little bit of a root bump. It's the strangest noise.
And is this something that you would mainly do around the front, or is this something that you could do throughout?
I would generally take it throughout. If I'm doing a full look for a client or a model or something, or an education, you know, demonstration in the studio or something like that, I would generally kind of try to fit it all into the whole shape. That way we've got a little bit of unity, if you like. But mostly on the top, because you want to see the line on the bottom still. You don't want to disrupt that too much, because if you start, you know, it's like when you're cutting, if you stretch everything too much, it pops up later on, you know, and then your line is so on.
All comes back to wrap drying, doesn't it?
Yeah, exactly. So I guess you could say like a half of the head is good. And then just keep checking it every time. You know, if you want a little bit more root lift, go right in there at the root there and get a bit of tension on there. I know quite a lot of stylists like to use the flat irons to do it because you can kind of pull on the hair a bit more. But I do find that sometimes with a flat iron, I get the same momentum in the hair all the time. Let's just give these another hit. So, you know, everything's based around the cut first, and then the colour is to complement the cut. So we always cut it, for this collection, we cut the haircuts first, so that the colourist can really see the detail and not just have to imagine it, you know, and then think about, oh, okay, so how's that going to look if I can't see where the colour placement is going to show?
Of course, yeah, it really does work hand in hand, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does a bit. And we've got 3 haircuts in the first part of the collection. We're launching that on our education website, Wella, education.wella.com.
When do those cuts launch?
Early September. Mid-September. And we're still just putting the final edit together. And with all the extra things you have to add, and then it will go live, and it will be on the website. People can just go on, watch it. It's a tutorial. There's enough. It's not too long that you know, you would kind of go, oh, this is too heavy, it's too boring. It's just long enough, you know. I know from myself, when I'm watching someone cut hair or style hair, you know, there is a point where you just want to see the end result. So we try to work it a little bit like that on this collection.
Yeah, we're definitely in a fast news generation.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. And people can watch it on their phones, and we've made sure that we've scoped it so that, you know, whether they're on a phone or turn it, you know, it's visual. They'll be able to see it. We're getting there.
Yeah, it's great to have all this. I mean, same with this here, the style
Yeah.
stage, having this sort of knowledge from people like yourself shared online for free.
Absolutely. You know, and it's great for us too to be able to collaborate with, you know, the fellowship and put things on there that are relevant to what we're doing as well, you know. I know that people are always asking, how do I get education? How do I get education? And, you know, we try to provide plenty of options for all the hairdressers. And there are some people that just want to tap in when they feel like it and not, you know, not have to kind of, you know, on the 3rd of June 2020, you know, do it. It's like, I want to do it when I want to do it. So that's where I guess we've started to kind of work towards. And then hopefully what we can do is, from there, if demand starts to pick up, we can say, you know what, we'll create a studio seminar, you know, around it. It might be a bit different, but around those principles of fundamental haircutting. Can I just get you to keep following me? That's it. Yeah, around those principles of fundamental haircutting, salon-friendly colour techniques, still modern, always modern, but everything comes from a classic, you know. It's just how, it's the twist you put on it in the finish, isn't it?
So you're coming to your last couple of sections there.
I am, close to finishing.
Is there a product that you're going to finish this with?
Yes, there is. I'm going to use 2 products. One to sort of show the detail a little bit more of the movement, and one to hold it. So I'm going to use a product called Microweb Fiber, which is an elasticized synthetic wax, in essence. It's kind of born of the laboratory, if you like. The idea behind it is it mimics, but it has what we call biomimicry technology. So looking at what works in nature. So if we want something that's going to be visible to the eye, perhaps strong enough to support, but still flexible enough to move. And one of the things that we found in nature was that spider silk has that quality. And when woven into a web, it creates almost an invisible structure that's flexible. So we took that principle and tried to make it into a product, hair product. But we generally call it like a synthetic wax, if you like, hair wax. So for the guys who like a hair wax, it's great because, you know, it literally doesn't weigh the hair down, doesn't create a heavy, you know, kind of coating, and it really kind of, you know, you've got this little tub. It's easy to use, just pops out, and it will show the detail. And then if you've got something a little bit softer,
really see that fibrous there. Where
you get that going, you know. I mean, this has always been a bit of a play, is to kind of show that almost web-like texture within the fibres, you know. So it's almost like cobweb. So it's great at Halloween for the kids, they love it. And then you can, you know, you don't have to put it on this way, but it's quite a nice way to show the detail. And you just put those little fibrous web over the surface, really. Great curly hair, you know, curly hair where you want to see the curls. Yeah. You don't want a heaviness to it. Detail, that kind of thing. Great, you know, sometimes I'll use it with a diffuser on damp hair, on natural waves. Perfect.
It's a really interesting application, huh?
Yeah. There's a technique to it. You can't mix it up too quickly. The quicker you mix it up, the more you lose the fibers, sorry. And then it goes on and on. Okay. So rather than actually dealing with the hair, what we do then is we take the hairdryer and we move it in, and we can warm it up. And we can start to, rather than using my fingers at this point, I'm just using air. Also, it's pushing in the product without flattening down the hair too much. There we go. Just move that round. I have a little bit more on my hands, and now I can think about the shape itself, how I want to change that shape and go for something a little bit more editorial looking. And what I don't want to do is overplay it. I want to kind of let that hair sit in its form, let it cool down from the heat, let it capture the movement, a little bit tousled, a little bit detailed, a mix of all of those things, you know, that we love to do in the salon. I often find sometimes when I'm doing hair, I want it to go a certain way, and it's not. And I've learned over the years to not worry about that.
I think that all comes with time and hairdressing,
Yeah,
doesn't
it does. And if we can share that with young hairdressers, you know, who perhaps are, you know, like they have what I would call a natural eye. You know, they've learnt their technique, but they haven't kind of ventured into the final finish or transforming the finish. You know, and I think, as you were talking earlier, customers or clients are looking for that now more so than ever.
Definitely.
Yeah? With colour, with style, and everything else. Is it okay if I get to stand up? Okay. So, why are they always tall? So I'm just using the Shaper Fierce hairspray. This is our driest, firmest hairspray. For me, it's a little bit like the ultimate finisher. You just lift the hair up, spray it, captures it. It's not, in general, it's not the one that you might go to because it's so strong. But if you're ready to do that, you know, if you're ready to kind of, right, I've got my look, all I need to now is just show a bit of detail. It's a great dressing spray for this kind of textural feel.
I think all the products you've used today, they've all shown a real lightness in their finish. There's nothing that seems to be weighing this hair down at all. It's lovely. Yeah. And just as you're finishing off there, if you'd like to just kind of recap anything and give us a little 360 of your model's hair.
Sure, yeah, I'd love to. Okay, so the essence is fundamental principle in hair cutting for all the haircuts of our collection. Yeah, a modern take on the personalizing techniques to make it new, and slowly again the other way, but nice and slow. To make it new in the way that you approach it, you know, the cutting and that fits into the styling, and then ultimately to have something that as a haircut that's complemented by a color technique that fits the client. You know, really fits the client. That's easy for her to change if need, or him needs to change. But ultimately, you know, you want to be able to offer transformation in the styling as well. I think that's the main principle. Absolutely
fantastic. I love that. I hope everybody here that's watching along has enjoyed this as well. So thank you, Rich, and your beautiful model. And we see you on the next one.